Okay, can't divide a fool in this pride. When her lied, bound to break the vow to his bride. Tried to hold back tears in my eyes when I realized after why you dying inside. I'm hiding the truth, I'm only alive cause of you. My life was on the line, you came through. Instead of gratitude, all I gave you was attitude. I made an issue of your moves and drove you to solitude. Notice me, been hurting all the while, yelling, woe it's me. Now my wife's in the cold, all alone in the car with my kids. And this ring don't mean a single thing. I need her back in my life, would you intervene? Cause where her heart used to be is now a deep ravine. Supposed to love her like Christ, love the church. And what hurts me the worst is I'm a king that's without his queen. Only married to the ring.
Married to the ring right here. We got a blueprint now, so the way is clear. Ding ding, stop facing off with each other.
Trip to us versus the world, deeper connection discovered.
Ding ding, married to the ring right here. We got a blueprint now, so the way is clear. Ding ding, stop facing off with each other.
Trip to us versus the world, deeper connection discovered. Ding ding, married to the ring, married to the ring, married to the ring.
Ding ding, married to the ring, married to the ring, married to the ring.
It's your time, baby. It's your time. It's your time.
Married to the Ring, the fastest growing minority women-owned relationship coaching organization in the world. Bringing marriages back to the forefront of the globe.
Ding ding, stop facing off with each other.
Trip to us versus the world, deeper connection discovered. Ding ding, married to the ring,
married to the ring.
married to the ring.
Yeah, honey, dedicated to the ring. You're supposed to be dedicated, instead you faded. With a love you're supposed to bring, with a happy home, with a place of safety. I'm in no cold with no cold and you chase me back to a deep dark spot. I call on God, that's all that we got. We in the real best spot. I see the rain from the drop, I see the rain in the storm. We don't even make love no more, we don't even kiss like we used to. We don't even care, can instead now we kick down them doors. I don't even know why I'm with you, we don't even take pictures. Abusive and mean, cold-hearted, no dream dedicated to one thing. Like we not dedicated to the ring.
Married to the ring right here.
We got a blueprint now, so the way is clear. Ding ding, stop facing off with each other.
Trip to us versus the world, deeper connection discovered. Ding ding, married to the ring,
married to the ring,
married to the ring.
Okay, can't divide a fool in this pride. When her lied, bound to break the vow to his bride. Tried to hold back tears in my eyes when I realized after why you dying inside. I'm hiding the truth, I'm only alive cause of you. My life was on the line, you came through. Instead of gratitude, all I gave you was attitude. I made an issue of your moves and drove you to solitude. Notice me, been hurting all the while, yelling, woe it's me. Now my wife's in the cold, all alone in the car with my kids. And this ring don't mean a single thing. I need her back in my life, would you intervene? Cause where her heart used to be is now a deep ravine. Supposed to love her like Christ, love the church. And what hurts me the worst is I'm a king that's without his queen. Only married to the ring.
Married to the ring right here. We got a blueprint now, so the way is clear. Ding ding, stop facing off with each other.
Trip to us versus the world, deeper connection discovered. Ding ding,
married to the ring right here. We got a blueprint now, so the way is clear. Ding ding, stop facing off with each other.
Trip to us versus the world, deeper connection discovered. Ding ding, married to the ring, married to the ring, married to the ring.
Right.
Hey, this is your gal, Tanya Williamson, the Chief Visionary Officer of Married to the Ring, and I'm super duper excited to be here again on our podcast. I have my girlfriend, my sister chick, my side chick from Baltimore, the B-more, Cassandra Ferguson, and we're going to talk on a topic that is definitely, near and dear. We know that it's the first month of the beginning of 2024, and not every marriage is in a good space. Not every relationship is in a good space. And we're going to talk about the truth about married couples who pretend they're happy. And so I'm going to allow Cassandra Ferguson to go ahead and introduce herself to you. She's not new to Married to the Ring by any means necessary, but I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself to you.
Well, Tanya, first I want to honor you and thank you for having me here with you today. And also thank you for continuing the race. No, I'm not new to Married to the Ring, but I want to thank you for staying in the race. because we know the race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, only to those that can endure to the end. So, in the end, is your destiny. So, I want to thank you first, and I want to applaud you, and I want you to continue this race because it is helping many, many, many couples. So, I am Cassandra Ferguson. And yes, Tanya is my girl. We met a divine connection by God. We were actually at a conference. I don't know if you remember. We were at Dr. Didi's conference
Yes, I
in
love Dr. DD.
in Baltimore. Tanya showed up. We connected, and we have been connected since. I don't even know how many years it's been, but it's been a number of years.
Wow.
And Tanya, you know, you invited me to go to the UK with you to speak. My first international speaking engagement was an invite from Tanya. I am the CEO of Elevation Global Media Group, which is located in Towson, Maryland. And what is Elevation Global Media Group? All things media, whether it's radio, whether it's TV, whether it's podcast, whether it's publishing a book, whether it's learning the craft you're speaking and media coaching, all that, voiceovers, all that. We do all that. And I am excited because God is emerging us into the space of EGMG Training Hub, where we're going to be training students in Baltimore about
Yes.
media, to give them a skill set in media, and working with accredited colleges and all that, because I'm excited about that, because I do believe that everyone may not be called to be the CEO of a company, but people love to have to develop skill sets. So thank you again, Tanya. I'm excited. Oh, I've been married for 37 years to
Woo!
my boyfriend. I call my boyfriend because it still feels like that, you know? It
Yeah.
didn't always feel like it, but now it feels like this is, you know, it feel like, you know, you still my boyfriend. Um,
Yeah.
Antonio, we have 4 adult children. We have 4 grandchildren, one which is in heaven, Atia. But we are just excited about life. We are on this other side. I can say the other side, where we are now like grandparents, close to retirement, all that. But I'm excited.
You know, I'm excited. I'm excited about what you're doing down there, over there in Bmore, Baltimore. You know, we did a Married to the Ring event in Baltimore, and I have to say, Baltimore showed out, and Baltimore has a unique element, you know, of
Mhm,
history there and the
mhm,
support. Definitely great job bringing in the next generation. Of what I would say podcasters, media publishers, and all of that great
all
stuff,
that.
right? So that's a good thing. And congratulations for
Thank you.
being married for over 30 years. My gosh, you've had to put the towel on. You've had to knock them out the boxing ring,
Mm,
come back
mm.
in the ring.
Come
You had to
on,
meet every type of match possible. But I have to commend you and
come
your
on.
spouse for staying in the fight
Yes,
together.
yes.
So let's get into this, because I knew that you would be the best person to talk about this. And truly, you're well qualified for 30 years, because everyone tries to make it seem like that marriage is always this perfect thing, when in fact it's the highest institution in the earth realm,
Mhm,
the most heavily attacked
mhm,
agreement in the world, right? And
mhm,
we see that through all of the legislation and the various changes. But let's talk about this. So I want to say, you know, I'm going to ask you some questions, but before I go into that, I want to state some statistics here
mhm,
that's very important. You know, 1 in 3 married couples, you know, I have to say this, and I try to tell people this all the time, like 1 in 3 married couples pretend to be happy, right? And then
mhm,
70% of couples say they have pretended to be happy in order to avoid conflict. And then
mm,
50% of couples say they have pretended to be happy in order to save their marriage, right? And then
mhm,
30% of couples say they have pretended to be happy in order to make their partner happy. Woo, oh my God. And then 20% of couples say they have pretended to be happy in order to avoid divorce.
mhm,
Now, for 30 some odd years, I know that you probably fell in the 1 in 3 married couples at one point pretend to be happy, the 70% of couples that have pretended to be happy in order to avoid conflict, and then that population where you were happy in order to save your marriage, you pretended, and then
Mm-hmm.
also trying to make your partner happy, and then also to avoid that daggone word called divorce court. So,
Yeah.
so what are some of the reasons why married couples pretend to be happy?
Well, I think it's basically what you just stated. And let's not get convenience, right? Because there's also studies. This is new thing out where married couples are married, but they just live together. They sleep in separate bedrooms. They just did that, and that is what the trend is now. So really, I'm not happy with you. I don't want to be with you, but I'm going to stay in this relationship because it's convenient. And let's just be honest, one of the key things is financially convenient for people, right?
Yes.
Financially convenient because I can't handle this bill or this lifestyle that we have created by myself. So I would rather be unhappy, stay with you, and let's just act like we happy, right? That's
Mm.
what it is.
That is, we just did a podcast interview with my girl J. Michelle Robinson from the state of Washington, who's also a native of Maryland.
Mhm.
And we just got finished talking about financial abuse in
Mhm.
marriage, what it
Mhm.
looks like. And so you are definitely correct. There is the marriage population that I failed to mention that are just staying in it to keep their exact same lifestyle.
The lifestyle,
You
yeah.
know, I also have to say to you, this is interesting that you bring that up because not too long ago, I had a conversation with someone who was dating an individual. And as they were dating the individual, they discovered that they were still married and living in the same household with their husband.
Mm.
And the gentleman said to me, Tanya, it kind of like rocked my, like, I'm thinking she's single, but she
Yeah.
also had communicated or conveyed directly to him that we live together, we're married, but we sleep in separate rooms. We do not have any intimacy. And I mean, from his moral and his value perspective, he was like, Tanya, is this the new dating thing? Because he had just recently got divorced. And I was like, yo, dude, don't touch that.
Right.
So
Right.
we've been talking about this because there was an email that I sent out not too long ago. You can't date while you're married.
No, you cannot. You
You
cannot.
can't. So I'm glad that you brought that up, but besides that one reason, what are some other reasons you believe, you know, um, what is a scenario where even in your marriage you felt at one point in time that you needed to pretend to be happy, or you felt like why you had to pretend to others to be happy, but you really weren't?
And you know what, Tanya, that was actually in the beginning. I would say, your marriage, you got the 5 year, then you go to the 10, the 15. I call those milestones, right?
Yes.
So in the first 10 years of my marriage, I was not happy. I was not happy at
Remember,
all.
I just celebrated my
Yeah.
11th year on
Mhm.
Wednesday. And I'm telling you, I told people, yo, the first 8, 9 years, I was like, yo. So when people come to me below that age, they like, Tanya, I'm throwing it out. I'm like, no, don't do it. Not yet. Not yet.
Right. Because, the honeymoon after, that I do, then the honeymoon stage is over. Now
Mhm.
the real life stuff comes. Now the real person shows up, right? When things get heated or things get tough. So, I just remember my husband was a street man, right? And when I say street man, he ran those streets.
Mhm.
Like my bishop
I had
said,
a
he was
hoe too. I had a hoe too.
right.
Like, yeah.
But like my bishop said, it wasn't something new that you saw. He was doing that when you met him. What made you think that he was going to drastically change all of a sudden when you married him? Because he still longed and hunger for that street life. So I remember one day I told God, I'm done. I'm not going to pray for him no more. I said that because God in the beginning has showed me the power of my prayer in our marriage. But I was frustrated because the prayer to me wasn't being answered.
Mhm.
I remember going to church at a Bible study, literally crying the entire time by myself. And God said, you need to give this to me. He said, give this to me. And he said, call your husband what I have already ordained him to be, the king of the house, the head. Speak life over him. Speak what I have already ordained him to be in this earth realm. And then, because that night when I said I wasn't going to pray anymore, God showed me this wicked spirit trying to get in our house. It was a strange woman trying to get in our house. She rung the doorbell, and it was a spirit. It was just no face. It was just an appearance of a spirit. And God said, just say the blood of Jesus is against you. The blood of Jesus is against you. So this spirit would have entered if I had given up the prayer. He said, if you stop praying and you stop affirming, a spirit is going to get in your home and it's going to destroy your home. And God said, this is not just about you. Your marriage is not just about you. It's about generations. So at that moment, Tanya, I began to not look at just me and how I felt. I began to look at my children and those that were connected to me, that now this marriage had a purpose and a mission behind it. And it wasn't just about me. And my bishop would tell us all the time, he said, the whole is more important than the half. I'm the half. But looking at the whole, which is the whole entire family, is far more important than the half. So either you're going to work through this and get through this, or you're going to see a ripple effect of destruction because you said no to me. It was about me and God at that point.
You said a whole mouthful. I think this is so powerful because I think, as I continue to deal with marriages across the globe, a lot of people really don't understand the power of the covenant,
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is because this is the highest institution ever created that no man can even duplicate,
Right.
no man can duplicate it scientifically because it was created directly by God, right? The moral of the story is because it was created in the fashion that it was created that you mentioned, a lot of people do not understand that when you exit out of a marriage, the multiple or the triple adverse impact it has on generations, like not just your children, but your children's children, your children's children's children, like up to 4 to 5 generations, right? And so as a direct result, I mean, when you said that your husband, he was out there, so we both have husbands that were thugs, right? But very good providers, right? Very good men, right? And now converted over on the other side. The lifestyle or whatever the battle that they contended with on the other side was either due to an absentee of a father or a divorce that transpired or something that they saw in their home that was outside of the normal matriarch of how marriage should look. And we as women have had to contend with those battles in order to create wholesomeness all over again, right?
Right.
I mean, that's what if you could just chime in there, is that what really took place? Like, did your husband come from
Actually, he came from, him and his mom and dad were married a long time until his father passed away while we were married from MS. So but I believe for my husband, it was just the streets of Baltimore.
It was his environment, right? What he saw, the brotherhood, what was acclimated, that's powerful. That's powerful. That is powerful. That is powerful. And you had to contend with that as the wife, but you knew how to contend with it through prayer.
Right. And not only that, he told me, he said, basically, you can be mad at me all you want. He said, you can say the word divorce. He said, but I'm never divorcing you. He would say that. So he would say that. Now, on the other side, on my end, I came from, my mother and father divorced.
Wow.
So, and they were married for about 10 years, and my father died of a drug overdose.
Okay.
But she had separated from my father, and that's how we ended up in Baltimore, to get away from the Virginia kind of lifestyle and just a new beginning, and came to Baltimore. So in my mind, if I don't like it, I'm gonna divorce you. Because
Well, you do know statistics say that a child who experiences divorce, the probability of them abandoning a relationship early on is like it's easy. I know I was a byproduct of a divorced household. Although my mother remarried, the bottom line is it wasn't a remarriage with my father. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the probability on our side, similar to what you said, I was like, listen, let me turn him off like a light switch. Yo, I want to exit. But there was this power every time I felt like I wanted to exit, and I can hear you saying it at the same time. It was like, I fear God. There was like this God was like, you can't, because it's bigger than you. And I was just like, who cares about it being bigger than me? It doesn't feel good, right? And that's what I hear you saying, right? And
and
if you
that's exactly, Tanya. But you know what? I think that comes from also we didn't realize probably at a younger age how connected and how much we had an intimate relationship with God, because during those trials of what I saw my mother go through with my father, I would always go somewhere and sit and talk to God.
Wow, that is too cute.
I will
There's a
always,
child right now that's doing that for their parents.
right. I will always go sit and talk to God. So, like you said, to me, one of the things I said to myself, I will never go through what my mother went through. Right. So I was already programming in my mind, he can try it if he want to, but I'm going to bounce like a basketball. Right. I had already programmed in my mind, I will never put up with that. Because you see that, you be like, I will never go through that. I will never put up with all these women that came, come forth, and all these girlfriends my father had. And I said, oh no, I would never put up with him putting his hands on me, which, no woman should. And that's what caused my mother to leave. So that was the reason. It wasn't like she wasn't trying. It was the abuse. Right. So I had already, but I'm just telling you how you see this, and you automatically put, you have this thing that that I will never do. I will never go through. And what happens is that kind of over trump what some things are or the way God is designing it. You're not going through the abuse. You're just going through, you both young, didn't know what you were doing, and you just growing up together. That's what it was.
I tell people never say never.
Right.
Because you don't know what test you'll be presented with. Never say never. You don't know what you will do until you're confronted with a situation, under any circumstance. So we had to be careful not to judge other circumstances, because this right here can get us in trouble, And so to your point, we may be saying that we'll never do this, but really God is saying love unconditionally, right? Like he's throwing in the pieces. No one wants to talk about long suffering. No one wants to talk about, how to confront, confront conflict, but in a meaningful way. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, I mean, hey, I have to say, you got a track record,
But you know what, Tanya, God gave me a secret sauce.
What's the secret sauce, Cassandra? Come on now.
To thy own self be true.
Ooh, to thy own self be true. So break that down. Break that down for the audience that's watching this.
Okay. So basically, a lot of times as women, when we are feeling pain, we're feeling disrespect or hurt, we sometimes just eat it up and think God don't want us to say nothing. Just take it. But I was communicating it with my husband. Hey, God says, stop keeping things silent, because that's what the problem was. Tell him how you feel. Tell him how it's affecting you,
Mhm.
and ask him, how can we do this better? Because for me to act like I'm not hurting, or me to act like I'm ignoring what I see, is a
Mhm.
lie, and that's fake.
You know, that's so important. The points that you made are so important because one, that's someone who's suffering in silence when they don't have
Mhm,
the ability to articulate or confront the conflict in a
mhm,
meaningful way.
mhm,
People think, I would hear some people say, "Oh, you're just talking too much." No, I'm
mhm,
not. I'm telling you what I don't like. I'm
mhm,
telling you what hurts me, and I'm telling
mhm.
you how that makes me feel. And I'm going to keep telling you in a meaningful way without, I don't care who raises the voice, that is inappropriate because that is crossing over into boundaries that makes me feel uncomfortable, which is what you just said. And that is oftentimes mistaken as toxic when in fact that is healthy. You know what I'm saying? That's
Right,
healthy in
and
a
it's
relationship.
very healthy. It's because number one, you're taking ownership of your feelings, right?
Exactly. Right.
That requires that person that is hurting you to now take ownership in what they have done to hurt you,
Hmm.
right? Because they got to
Hmm.
take ownership. And it's up to the individual to now make you feel secure in that
Hmm.
area they may have made you have hurt you or harmed you in.
And that is important. And it's not the
Yeah,
responsibility just for the person that's out there listening to this right now. It is not your responsibility to change the other individual
right,
after you have communicated what doesn't make you feel good. And it is not your responsibility to function out of fear because they may not respond the way
right.
that you had anticipated them to respond, because you really don't know what their history was shaped to be like. What
Mm-hmm.
may be abnormal to you may be normal to them until you communicate what is abnormal, right? That's when they
Right.
have an opportunity to assess. What I love, what you said is you're keeping your girl power or
Mm-hmm.
man power, whoever, whichever individual is experiencing this right now. You're keeping your power in your own wheelhouse, which is you,
Mm-hmm.
which is you as an individual. And so, you know, what would you say to the person who fears communicating their feelings? You ever see someone who's so passive that the other party will manipulate the words? We're going to talk on this shortly, narcissism and manipulation and all of that on this podcast. But I think there's sometimes some people who will communicate their feelings to the other party. Were there any instances where your husband tried to twist the words or tried to manipulate so that he did not ever have to accept ownership? Or have you ever been in a relationship where that has happened and you've had to say, wait?
Well, yeah, even today, my husband would try to twist the words. He said, "Well, if I say I'm feeling a certain way, or just like today, I'm gonna give you an example. Hey, when we came from the airport, we should have got some gas in my car because I have no gas now. We made a mistake because now it's snow outside, and I'm scared to drive to the gas station. I'm scared I'm not gonna make it." And the first thing he says to me is, "We didn't make a mistake. We okay." I said, "We did make a mistake, right?" And because we should have gotten this gas. But then I said, "Okay, got it." Because sometimes when people are like that, they don't necessarily want to take ownership. You just say, "Okay, let me just back off," because we want them to see it. We want
Yes.
them to see what it is that was done. But all the time, they're not going to see it. So
Right.
what we need to do is learn. I always say the grace card. When to give the grace card, when to pull back and say, "Okay, God, you'll help them see it one day." And that's how, the communication, because communication is so important. And
Yes.
and this whole fake thing, Tanya, to me,
Come on now. Well, we January babies. You know, January babies, we at the beginning of the year. We ain't nothing fake about us. We call it ace ace, a spade a spade. It is what it is.
Ain't no
You
time
know,
for fake
yeah,
ones.
I just, it's like, yo, cut that jargon out.
Right.
Cut the fillers out. Just tell me what it is, Not everybody can handle that.
Yeah, because to be honest, I've seen some fake marriages, people acting, and with me, I always say, "What you see is what you get."
Ooh. Well, what was interesting is I wanted to have this conversation because I remember very early on in my marriage, to your point, under that 8-year threshold where when Gerald and I had separated, we were living in two separate residences, and here it is, I'm birthday married to the ring. Um, but not bleeding on people, having other people really come in. But deep down on the inside, I had to differentiate silence, in certain
Mhm.
circumstances where I had to, how do I put it? Like I hate the fact that I would go to church and pretend that we were in the same household.
Mm.
Like, hello, greet, hi, everybody.
But you know what,
Yeah,
Tanya? Why is that? Why is that? Because it's almost like a liar. Once a liar tell a lie,
like it was like,
once they
but
tell a
I was
lie, they
like,
gotta
if
keep
they were
telling a
gonna
lie.
ask
You had to
me,
keep being fake, right?
yeah, I was like, if they ask me, I'm going to tell them right now that we are not even in the same. Don't ask me. That's how I was like, don't ask me the question, right? But I just went ahead and went along with, lottie, 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 lottie. And it was not a good feeling because at the end of the day, when I walked out, how could I really receive the word? I don't know who
Mhm.
this is for right now. I just feel this is going to be for someone out there, but how could I really totally receive the word knowing that at the end of it, I still had a
Mhm.
crush? I still had to
Mm.
deal with the reality of what was going to happen when we walked out of the building, right? And that's why I really stress on the importance that it's okay to disagree, but always remain in agreement. People don't understand that, like, it's okay to disagree in a relationship, and this goes for the male or the female. Your response doesn't mean that you have to exit. You just have to wait on the timing on when to really uh handle it accordingly or appropriately, and you all are not going to agree. I mean, we've gone from leaving out of the house, grabbing a new home, living in separate residences to going to the other room, go to sleep. It's something that evolves, and not every marriage, has had to do that. But even in your case, early on in your marriage, when there were times where you felt like you had to pretend to be happy, what did you do? Did you go to the next room, or did you go over your mom's house? Did you go to the girlfriend's house? What did you do?
I do remember one time I did go to my mother's house. You mentioned that, but my mother told me, she said, "What's wrong?" And she immediately told me, "Go back home, have the conversation."
Go back
She wouldn't
home.
go back home.
Wise cancel.
She was not going to let me just give up that
Right.
quickly. She wanted me to understand that there's no perfect marriage, and we often hear this, that
Love that.
marriage is not a contract; it's a covenant.
Right.
The covenant you make before God and man, right? Better or worse,
Better
richer or
or
poor.
worse.
And
Mhm.
so I was in my worst, but I had to get to my better.
Yes, yes, yes. This is important. And how did you share with the individuals? How did you get to your better? Because some people, depending upon if they're spoiled brat, or if there's a trigger because they've experienced something in their childhood and they're like, I don't want this. This is linked to my trauma, but it really isn't associated with their trauma at all. It's just that they've mentally done that. What type of prescription would you give them, on how to become better?
Well, I think what number one happened was I deepened my relationship with Christ. And I went to him for the answers. And he began to show me in the word where Sansa says where unity commands the blessing, right?
Mm,
The power of agreement, you know, one could chase 1,000, but two could put 10,000 to flight. So I began to see the power in our coming together, being married, and also family. I
Mhm.
wanted my family to have what I didn't have.
Mm.
And I've always wanted that, them to have better, them to have what I didn't have, two parents that stayed together, that were married, that loved each other, that provided a nurturing space, a space of love, a space of truth, a space of unity. So I began to take those steps and believe God for it. I believed him for it. And me taking the steps, because it's always, I said, God is always going to require you to do something.
Exactly. He's always going to require you, and you have to be extremely intentional. I say this in all of my interviews. I said, everyone has an educational plan, a financial plan, a career plan, but do they have a marital plan,
Mm.
right? Do they have a marital plan that really outlines cohesively what the two individuals agree upon,
Hmm.
right? And you have to become extremely intentional,
Yeah,
right? And it sounds like you've been very intentional. You've been very strategic in your marriage. How important is it to have a strategy in your marriage?
it's very important to have a strategy, because number one, you mentioned it. We'll have a strategy for our finances. We'll have a strategy for the next career move, for that look, I'm gonna say 20 pounds that you want to COVID weight you still trying to get off. We'll have a strategy, but why not have a strategy for something like you said,
Mhm,
the first institution that God
mhm,
formed,
mhm,
that he put his hand on so richly, for better or for worse. You're making that covenant with him. Why
mhm.
not have a strategy for something that will charge and change generations for real? Because let's be honest, when you die, what's the legacy you leaving?
Y- Well, what's the purpose of living
Yeah.
if you're not leaving a legacy?
What's
You
the
know,
legacy? What
like
kind of
what's that?
legacy are you leaving?
Right, right, right. One of the greatest things that I love is people don't understand it starts, I know they deal with the children and they're doing, no, but it starts in the household with mother, father.
Yep.
From mother, father, then it trickles, and you mentioned early on that you didn't want to pretend. And the reason why you didn't want to pretend is because, your children, your adult children, I'm assuming you broke what we call generational curses. You
Mm-hmm.
confronted issues that you said, listen, this is not going to happen on my watch with the next set. And then the next set, which are your children. Now, how many of your children are married?
Out of four, three.
Look at that.
Yep. And you know what? And I'm
Look
so
at that.
and
Look
it's so
at
and
that.
what we've been through, Tanya, we share with
Yes.
them.
Right.
We're very authentic and real with them. And even if we see something, like we see something the enemy's trying to bring, we say, "Hey, we're seeing this, and if you continue on this track, this is what's going to happen. So you need to pray and ask God for wisdom in this area."
What I love about what you said is people or children do not understand the direct connect or influence of their parents'
Hmm.
voices in their lives nowadays. Some
Hmm.
do
Right.
and some don't. Some take that voice that God has given, and it's in the book of Psalms. It talks about, I believe, at your mother's feet and at your father's, like there's like
Hmm.
wisdom around instruction and counsel that's provided. And when an adult child doesn't listen and they
Hmm.
connect with, I call them foreign objects, meaning a
Hmm.
foreign substance
Hmm.
that has nothing to do with the shaping of your bloodline or the covenant of your bloodline, then you start to see all of this toxicity bleed
Hmm.
across multiple areas. And then they're like, how is this happening? Because they become a part of a yoke that
Hmm.
never was predestined, and it doesn't even match the DNA of their bloodline,
Right.
right? It
Right.
doesn't even match the DNA of their bloodline. And so speak to the importance. I mean, the importance of being transparent, and how to really break the cycle. So say for instance, I'm, you know, here's Sarah. Sarah's coming in. Sarah's going to church every Sunday, sitting next to Bob. Let's just give an example, right? Sarah's coming to church, sitting next to Bob every Sunday. They're enjoying themselves, but what are some signs that you really can detect, like that marriage isn't in a good place? And then they get in, they're going home, and they're just repeating the cycle Sunday to Sunday, or even in the workplace, repeating the cycle. How can they break the cycle of, not being authentic?
Right.
Why do they feel they have to be so ashamed, or why does one feel they have to be so ashamed? Because this rule about, um, uh, what stays in the house, what goes on in the house stays in the house. Some of that rule is not good. Some of that rule is a curse, But what do you say to a couple right now who is pretending to be good, but they really aren't?
That's something, because you asked that question, because when the Lord called my husband to be a deacon, right? I said in front of all the other deacons, I said in front of our pastor, I don't want my husband to be a deacon because your wives look unhappy.
Woo! Wait, we're gonna drop the mic. Because that's where, listen, I'm trying to
I don't want to
you.
look like, and I don't want to look like them.
And I don't want to. So let me say something to you. I'm gonna drop the mic right here. I have seen so many first ladies unhappy,
Yep.
insecure, bleeding their dysfunction onto, congregations over the years, right? That literally, when they were saying to my husband, "Oh, one day Tanya will be a first lady," I was like, "Oh no, I'm not that girl." I'm gonna tell you, listen, I'll tell you the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. Because of the point that you made, like in the church, there are,
And we should start with leadership first.
right. You have to lead by example. I was just sharing a situation recently. I was so happy to see, an individual grow, right? And I was like, that was in leadership. And I was like, it makes a difference. It makes the wives want to sit there, because wives can discern what other wives are going through, especially, marriage is marriage, right? And so as a direct result, when you see the good, when you can see or be able to help. And then someone was saying to me, "No, Tanya, you're supposed to go and help." No, I can't fix anyone's house. What happens behind closed doors. Now I can give you tools and I can give you resources, but the two individuals are customized uniquely for themselves. That means that these individuals have to be very intentional and apply resources, tools, and most importantly, the word of God,
Yeah.
to their lives. That's having a plan, having a blueprint of something that they're saying we're willing to fight through regardless of what's happening. But understanding that the covenant it's between them two, So when you said that to them, what did they say?
They almost did what you did. Whoa.
Yeah.
Because I explained that I don't want, if God has called my husband to this, of course, the pastor explained that when God calls your husband, he also calls you, he also calls the family, right? So it's not just the husband, but it's up to the wife or the individual on the way they handle things. Because my whole thing was, I don't want my husband being at church all the time, and then I'm sitting at home when he coming home.
That whole stigma. The whole stigma of imbalance, right?
And that's what I talked about. I said, I want him to be balanced. I want our family to be balanced. I want, when we having dinner, I want him there.
Jesus.
I understand that he has to do the things of God and the things for the church, but his first ministry is home.
It's home. And so what I like about what you just said, this is like, that's a whole nother topic, but this is like telling the individual maybe suggesting to the individual who is watching this right now that if you could take the lead on building that communication plan and building out your individual vision for your family first, I
Yes.
think that has to
Yes.
happen before anyone does anything in the church,
Come on.
because it allows them to establish boundaries
Right.
when they cross over into the church, right?
Right.
Because if you're not stable at home, and if you're not communicating and ministering effectively at home, I, me, because I'm a realist, right? If you get up there, I'm gonna look at you like I don't even hear what you're saying, because what you doing at home is not what you're doing up in that pulpit,
Right. And it's
right?
hard for Tanya, that's real. And it's hard for you
Yeah.
to receive from someone that's not authentic in their life. They
Right.
they are not, whatever they're saying across the pulpit or whatever they're saying, even in speaking, coaches and all this. It's hard for me to receive because I see other things when you're doing something else. It's hard for me to receive because you just, like I said in the beginning, to thy own self be true. It goes back to you. How are you being authentically true with this part or in your marriage or anything else in your life? And then when you look and say, why? And then why am I not being true to that?
And why? Because, and let me explain something to you. A lot of people don't understand that the blows intensify when you show up fake,
Yeah.
because you're going to be tested to
Yeah.
see if that's what is that the substance that you're really carrying, right? And then what happens is it knocks you back like 10 steps. Like it's going to knock you all the way back, because it's going to force you to do what you didn't want to do. So I'm all about prevention. Why not do it right the first
Right.
time, so that you ain't got to do all of that other stuff? And then when people come in, my girlfriend has a saying, I give her credit for this. My girlfriend has a saying Tanya, don't let no air come in between your relationship. And this
Mm-hmm.
is how I feel. If you don't allow any of it to come into your relationship at home first, when those demonic forces in the church come to attack, it will never penetrate.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said to you earlier in the interview that as long as you have the power of agreement,
Mm-hmm.
you're in agreement. It's okay to disagree, but never lose the agreement, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to disagree on a topic, on a subject, but never lose agreement, meaning your oneness, your unity, your harmony,
Mm-hmm.
your peace, your sanctification.
Mm-hmm.
Some things are not worth arguing about,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially when it's coming from an outsider. It
Mm-hmm.
just isn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that outsider can be family, friends, children,
Mm-hmm.
siblings, pastors, whatever. You just have to make sure that you keep the sanctification of your relationship sanctified. That's just,
Mm-hmm.
sanctified at the end of the day. Nothing more, nothing less. And if the other partner is not there yet, you have to give them the time, grace, to be able to get there over time, so
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't create a divide in your household, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you challenged the deacons, because what did that do within the church? How did the how was that received?
Well, I think what it did was it showed them how important my family was to me.
Yes, you commanded that.
The
There was
boundaries,
no
the
right. There was
boundaries
no
was already set.
boundaries.
Yep, you already
Yes.
know how important my family is to me. So when my husband said he can't be or he got to do to take care of home, you guys understand because
I love it.
we're not coming against this. We're not coming against this, and we're not putting anything in the place of my family. We're not doing that. So I think that set boundaries. It also set a level of respect for me and my husband and what we were building in our home and in our marriage and with our children. And to this day, they respect that. And that probably was about, I would say, maybe Antoine was a baby. He's 27 now, with 28. Maybe about 15 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. So what would you say, just to recap that piece right there, especially, we're going to have, I want someone to look beyond those that are listening. This isn't just an example. I mean, the example Cassandra gave was in the church, but this also is applicable to your work. This is
Mm-hmm.
applicable to your relationship with families. What's the boundaries that
Yeah.
you must establish so that you don't alter who you are as a person.
That's it.
You don't alter who you are as a person. What would what recap would you tell them, tell someone to do? You
Well,
know,
I would like to put a challenge question out there, Tanya,
hmm
because I believe that when you're challenged, you change.
Ooh.
So, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want your family to be healthy? How bad do you want your marriage to be healthy? How bad do you want to be an example, an authentic example for others to see? And how bad do you want to come against the odds? How bad do you want to come against any generational curses or anything that you've seen? How bad do you want it? Because how bad you want it is going to determine your next move and your next action. It's almost like a championships. We're in football season. We're football house. It's almost, I always say this.
Oh, we got a football house too.
Yeah, I always say this. The team that wanted the baddest
hmm hmm
will win or come out successful.
That's what I'm
So the
talking about.
couple or the marriage that want it the baddest,
hmm
that's willing to take stands, set boundaries, speak up, speak out, will come out on the end on top. So how bad do you want it?
I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm gonna leave it right there. I think that Cassandra dropped so many important nuggets in this interview that you have to go back and, I was hearing one of our colleagues say it's important to go back at least 7 times and
Mhm,
replay and grab the notes because she dropped some nuggets that I believe will be able to help, but do not narrow your mindset,
mhm,
to, as I stated earlier in this interview, we give an example of church, but how about someone comes to you and approach and say, I want you to do a new TV show. I want you to do this. And you consult your spouse, and your spouse is like, I'm not really ready for that yet. You know, how do you proceed? Do you wait or do you be like, forget it? I'm just going to go ahead and do it because I ain't got time to be waiting on the brother. I mean, there's just examples that I believe that you can and take a look and apply them, and then determine exactly how you want to proceed. But the key here is you got to keep God first because
mhm,
he's the one that created marriage and everything. I have to be very transparent. Every instance or battle or conflict is
mhm,
in the word. Like
mhm,
there is symptoms. I mean, it's in the word, right?
mhm.
But we here at Married to the Ring also have resources. We have a blueprint community for marriages. But Cassandra, what would you say in closing? Because you did partner with my girl out there, Cynthia Green. I haven't seen
Yeah.
Cynthia in a second. I can't wait to give a holler out to her. But she couples determined to make marriage great, right? So
Yeah.
Cynthia Green did is it an anthology or a collaboration?
Yes, a collaboration. Basically, couples came together and we, whatever was close to our heart is what we wrote our chapter on. In our chapters, chapter 4, it says there is power in the come together. And that's basically based off of Psalms 133, how truly wonderful and delightful it is for to see brothers and sisters live together in sweet unity. It's as precious as the sacred scented oil flowing from the head of the high priest Aaron, dripping down upon his beard and running all the way down to the hem of his priestly robe. This harmony can be compared to the dew of dripping from Mount Hermon, which flows down upon the hills of Zion. Indeed, this is where Yahweh has decreed his blessing will be found. The promise of life forever, unity. And it's, and we basically talk about this, the power in the come together. There was times in our marriages, I'm saying my marriage, where we didn't come together.
Right.
But we began to notice when we did come together, God's blessing was on it.
That's why I say it's okay to listen, stay in agreement. That's all. You got to stay in agreement because God's blessing is already guaranteed on the marriage. So if you are an individual who is not or faking to be or pretending to be happy, go back and grab some of these nuggets. And it goes back to communication. It goes back to communicating, learning how to communicate to your spouse what those unmet needs are and how you communicate and drawing those boundaries. And so, we do have tools and resources, but we'll also be able to share where can they find not only to purchase the book, but Cassandra, where can they locate you?
Yes. So I'm on all social media sites, Cassandra Ferguson. Also, Elevation Global Media Group. If you wish to purchase this book, you can actually go on to my Instagram page, Elevation Global Media Group, because Elevation Global Media Group is the media partner that helps to do the bookings and sell a book. You can go on there and you can send a DM and you can get a link. And I'll send Tanya the link as well in order for you to purchase the book from me. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. 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 I'm happy. I mean, Merlin's taking marriages by by force, by force. So thank you again, Cassandra. For all of you out there, you already know where to locate Married to the Ring, and we'll share that with you. But thank you so much for today's interview. Thank you, Cassandra.
Thank you, Tanya, and it's a blessing.